So welcome to the fucking show. This is the first episode of the Mighty Rewind podcast, and you're going to ask yourself, well, what is that? I've been working on this for quite a while, trying to get everything right, but what it is we're going to talk about everything yesteryear, the things that we grew up with as kids from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, but we're also going to talk about things that are going on right now in pop culture, the MCU, DCU, but what made me make this decision is I like talking about other things that I grew up with. Like, I was a big TV fan, I was a big movie fan, and I have some buddies that are going to come on this show. Some people who live in my area, they're going to come on in studio. We're going to talk about everything. But not only that, we're going to have people come in offline, of course, using Restream, talk about things in the community, comics, toys, arcades, video games. Everything that we grew up with that made us who we are today, we're going to talk about on this podcast. It is going to be a blast. So make sure not only that you're subbed up to Mighty Comics and Collectibles, but guess what? This podcast is going to have its own YouTube channel called the Mighty Rewind Podcast. So make sure you go to the link in the description and sub up to that channel as well. So let's start off with a topic I've been dying to talk about a little bit more, and that, of course, is the Masters of the Universe film. I have been waiting 40 plus years for this film to come out, ever since that 1987 debacle with Dolph Lundgren. Of course, we got some of the main characters, but none of the characters looked anything like the 80s toy line or even close to the cartoon. Okay, so that was a throwaway for me. It wasn't a bad film. It was set on Earth, which we'll talk about a little bit, of course, with this film, but the best part of that movie was Frank Langella and his portrayal of Skeletor. But if you look at the character, he looked nothing like Skeletor from what we originally got, his origin, right? So this movie, I'm hoping, is going to hit it out of the park with that. Let's start with the main thing. The big news that just came out was that we got our first look as Nicholas Galitzine as HeMan. Now, I'm going to say the first thing, when I first saw this, I thought they knocked it out of the park, okay? He looks just like an action figure of HeMan, okay? People are already in the comments saying that it looks like HeMan is skipping leg day. Stop it. Guys, there was no way a bodybuilder was going to take on this role. If you look at the 80s toy line, even the cartoon, nobody looks like that, right? They're not getting some professional bodybuilders to go ahead and act in this movie. This is going to be a good film. I am pretty confident that they're going to do this character and all the characters right. So I think they absolutely nailed it. The hair is a more modern take on HeMan. The one thing I will say that it doesn't bother me, but I knew we weren't getting a furry loincloth. It was 100%, set in stone. It wasn't going to happen. They did go the leather kind of skirt route, and I do think it looks a little bit too long in my opinion, especially in the back. If they had shortened this thing up a little bit, maybe thrown a little fur here or there on some of the leather straps, it would have worked a lot better in my opinion, but it is what it is. He looks pretty good. Again, the whole bodybuilder thing was never going to happen. He looks like the character, and I say, wait till we get a picture of him standing next to some of the other characters that are going to be in the film. If you go back and look at the 80s toy line, all the characters had the same body for the most part, so none of them are going to be bodybuilders. So I can guarantee you Nicholas is going to be the biggest dude in this film. So I think they did a really great job. And it is a dark photo. You can go online and find a lightened photo to see a little bit more. But the last thing I will touch on from this photo is that if you look at the chest armor, it is brown. So we all know that HeMan wears like a gray or metal chest armor. We're not seeing that from this photo. It looks to be another leather chest armor. Now we're seeing it from the back. We can get some metal aspects on the front of the chest armor as well, but remains to be seen. But I am super excited for this picture and what we're getting from the characters so far. So how about this? Let's start with what do we know? Okay, we know the cast. That's the one thing we do know so far, at least most of the cast. Nick Galitzine is playing HeMan, Prince Adam. Then, of course, we know that Jared Leto is playing Skeletor, my favorite villain of all time. So I think they got the castings right. A lot of people are going to kill the Leto casting, but let's see how they do. I have a feeling that this portrayal is going to be pretty spot on. But either way, a lot of heroic warriors, a lot of evil warriors that we're getting in this film, and I want to cover them, okay? I want to remind everybody who's in and who's out. So let's start with the heroic warriors. We have Man-at-Arms, of course, played by Idris Elba. My first impression when this happened was that, I don't really care for that casting, but it's growing on me a little bit. He's a fantastic actor. We have Teela, on the good side, we have the Sorceress, we have Fisto, Ram Man, Mechanic, and we have Moss Man, all confirmed. So right off the bat, to me, that is 7 heroic warriors. Keep that in the back of your head because I will reference that later on. 7 heroic warriors right there. We also have King Randor and Queen Marlena, who in my opinion are not going to be big parts of the film, and we'll touch on that later in this podcast as well. So altogether, 9 heroic warriors, notwithstanding He-Man. That's a lot, okay? Because let's talk about the evil warriors now. Confirmed evil warriors: Evil-Lyn, Trapjaw, who is my absolute favorite, my boy Triclops, Goatman, which I have no idea why they included Goatman. There were so many other great evil warrior characters they could have chose. Can't answer that. He didn't even appear in anything outside of a mini comic, so a little ridiculous in my opinion, regardless. And we also have a fully CGI character that we have seen, which I'm going to call Beastman, because there's no way they're making a Motu film without having Beastman in this movie. And you can see from the pictures they did show, the actor is kind of walking with like sticks, kind of hunched over. So there's no one else, in my opinion, who it could be. So I definitely think Beastman is going to be in this movie. So count them up. The Evil Warriors total 5 confirmed actors playing these roles. And if you go to the heroic side, we actually have 7, not including King Randor and Queen Marlena. And of course, we still have HeMan and Skeletor. But if you ever watch a movie or a TV show where the hero is having an issue, something he has to overcome, he's always outnumbered. Now, I know Skeletor in this movie is going to have some of his minions and his bots, or whatever they're called, these skeletal beings that we've seen in some of the photos. Now, that could be it, but I still think we're going to get some great characters that have not been announced so far. And it brings me to that CinemaCon footage that we got. We weren't able to see it, of course, but on the artwork that they did show, there was some artwork of Spikor, so that's a character that could show up in this film. I'm hoping, because he was one of my favorites from the toy line. And we did get some artwork of Battlecat, and I've heard from other people in the industry that Battlecat is confirmed for this movie, which is great. As far as other villains, a couple that are easy to portray, I don't know. I would love to see it Too Bad. I don't think that's going to happen. And Merman was a huge part of the Motu cartoon. I'm shocked that they have not announced him. Maybe they'll throw him in there at some point, being entirely CGI with any motion capture. I have no idea. I just don't see how you make a Motu film and having some of these evil characters and not have a merman. Regardless, let's check out some of the first looks that we got for everything behind the scenes. The first one we got was of Prince Adam and the Power Sword. This is way back when, and of course, he looks nothing like the Prince Adam we got from the TV show, but I will say this: it's very hard to kind of recreate what that character was in a fantasy land. So they gave him a pink shirt because, of course, this movie is set on Earth. We'll talk about that later. But they gave him a pink shirt with a white undershirt underneath to kind of give it a throwback to the original character. As far as the Power Sword goes, it is spot on in this film, which makes me very happy. And if you go back and look at that picture we got of He-Man for the first time, you can actually see that it's actually sticking to the back of his armor, maybe by magnet, because there's no holster for that sword, which in my opinion they got right, because if you remember the toy, there was nothing back there. We always stuck it right through the back of the latches for his armor, but I'm totally happy they went that way with it. So we got that picture of a Prince Adam Power Sword. Think of it what you want. It's the way I think they had to go. Next up, we got to look at Teela's costume. That was a big one, right? A bit of a combo between the 1980s cartoon and then the later on cartoons, the Netflix series, and then, of course, that 1987 film with the gun holster, which none of us actually like, but I can understand the fact that they're not going to have Teela running around in a bathing suit-like armor. Okay, but the one thing I will say, if you look at that costume that she's wearing, you can actually look really close and see that they did throw it back, because you can see that there's a bathing suit overlay over the pants. So are we going to get at some point her, getting in a different outfit, maybe to go to battle? We also don't have the updo that Teela is actually known for everywhere, not only in the cartoon, but in the toy line. And then even in the later iterations, they give her like a bob. So hopefully we get that later on in the film as well. Now, we did get some Moss Man behind the scenes information. Not much, but you could see very, very vaguely. They have almost like a mask-like thing around them that he's going to be wearing. You can't really see too much, but it's going to be a combination of makeup and overall headwear. This is a character that I am really happy they included in the film, because he was one of the funnest toys to play with as a kid, right? You can hide him in the bushes, you can hide him in the grass, you can hide him in the trees, anywhere you want. So they could use this character in a way that I think they can't use some of the other ones, especially on the good side. Okay, so I'm happy to see Mossman in this film, and hopefully he has a bigger role than just a couple of appearances. The last one I want to talk about, of course, is Trapjaw. We did get a very, very tiny glimpse at Trapjaw. You can see right here of his eye. It is green. Well, that's a good sign, right? If you remember, Trapjaw, he's got the green face and the blue body, and of course the interchangeable arm with the trap jaw and the loop on his head. Who knows what we're actually going to get once the movie comes out, but I have a feeling we're going to get sneak peeks at some of these other characters later on. Finally, we get a trailer, stuff like that, but an important character. I'm happy to see that he actually has a green face, so that was the main thing from this leak. A few other things I want to touch on. Earlier in other videos that I've done, we got a glimpse into Zodak, we got a glimpse into Bo, and a few other characters that were kind of thrown on a throne piece. We don't know what this piece is, if it's like a transport, if it's just like, a flooring of some sort. We have no idea what it is, but there definitely has some type of Zodak and Bo and a few others being involved in this movie, whether just being like named or whatever it is. I do have a theory of what's going on. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment, but I'm happy to see that they're actually kind of setting up a world in this movie. Because of the 1987 film being on Earth, people have lost their minds, and I deservedly so. I get it. Nobody wants to see that. We want to see a fantasy land. We want to see Eternia. We want to see everything that we grew up with brought to life. But I do understand there's budget constraints, and I have a theory about this whole thing, and we're going to talk about it. But let's talk about the synopsis first. So here is the synopsis, and don't forget, this is not set in stone. It's not put out by Amazon Universal, but the story follows 10-year-old Prince Adam, who crashed to Earth in a spaceship and was separated from his magical power sword, the only link to his home on Eternia. After tracking it down almost 2 decades later, Prince Adam is whisked back across space to defend his home planet against the evil forces of Skeletor. But to defeat such a powerful villain, Prince Adam first needs to uncover the mysteries of his past and become HeMan, the most powerful man in the universe. So let's start out with the fact that why did Prince Adam and the Power Sword get pushed off? I am thinking that Skeletor is after the Power Sword and Prince Adam. From the mini comics, from the TV shows, he was always after, Castle Grayskull, wanted to conquer Eternia, but always wanted to get the secrets of Castle Grayskull, and needs the sword to do so, according to the mini comic. Now, they could stray far from this. Maybe Skeletor has just taken over Eternia, and that's why they sent Prince Adam off to protect him. I don't know. Definitely possible. We did get that, behind the scenes pictures of Adam down on his knees. Skeletor looks like he had him captive. So that could play out as well. But I'm sticking to the fact that they need to protect Adam and the Power Sword from Skeletor. Now, we've also heard that there is some news out there, or some rumors that in the beginning of this movie, we may have Keldor and maybe get a flash scene of him turning into Skeletor, because don't forget, he's King Randor's half-brother, wants the throne of Eternia. It makes sense. So I don't think we're going to get a long, drawn-out origin. There's no time for that. But there may be some flashbacks of why, Adam gets sent off with the Power Sword, because Keldor turns into Skeletor, wants to conquer Eternia, and wants that sword to get into Castle Grayskull. That, to me, makes the most sense, okay? The one other thing I will say is that we've got some shots of Teela on Earth with Prince Adam. So why is Teela all of a sudden on Earth with Adam? Makes sense to me that what's happened is Skeletor has found out where Prince Adam is, knows where the sword is, been looking for the past 10 years, and now, Eternia finds out, and they want to send Teela to Adam to bring him home because Skeletor knows where he is. We also have that totally CGI character that has been shown also on Earth, so I'm assuming that's where I'm getting this from, that he's Skeletor saying to Beastman, go get Prince Adam, go get the sword, bring it back to me so I can rule all over Eternia. That makes sense to me, okay? And Teela's sent there to protect Adam, but also to bring him home. So this brings us to Eternia. We have Adam on Eternia. Like I said before, we see it in clips that he's on his knees, looks like he's captive by Skeletor, but maybe Skeletor does take over Eternia. Maybe he has everyone captive, and all of a sudden, he's got to get out. Maybe the sorceress calls to him, because we all know she could talk to him telepathically, and others like Teela. And he escapes, gets to Castle Grayskull, maybe with Orko, who we have seen nowhere, and there's no talk about this character, but he's a pretty easy character to kind of throw in and kind of put him in there. Travels to Castle Grayskull, maybe with Man-at-Arms, Cringer, stuff like that, because those are the only ones who know who he is, right? How that he can become He-Man. So with that said, I think that's a big plot point that nobody's kind of brought up, and a great way they can go is that Skeletor has kind of taken over. He's got the power sword. Prince Adam takes it to the sorceress. She tells him all who he is, tries to become He-Man, gives him the final words by the power of Grayskull, all that fun stuff, turns it to He-Man, and then he goes to save the day. Makes most sense to me is that what I've kind of explained out for you guys. Again, I could be totally off here, and it could be something totally different, but that makes the most sense of why he's on Earth. They have to give us a why. Again, it could be just that he's playing around in space and crash lands and nobody knows where he is, but then why would Teela all of a sudden know, hey, I got to go to Earth to get him, right? She's on Earth with who we all assume is Beastman. Skeletor must know where he is, and that's why Beastman is there. It makes the most sense. Now, how he gets to become He-Man and find out who he is later on, that is kind of like a crapshoot for all of us. We have no idea what's going to happen in this film, but I am super excited, man. You don't wait 40-something years for this to be done right and get all the characters that we have been waiting on forever to show up in this film and then not be super excited. In Travis Knight, we trust. That's what I'm hearing from everyone, is that this guy understands the source material, the IP, and he's going to bring it to life. Now, it may not be to life that we all remember it, but it's going to be close and the best we can for a modern day Masters of the Universe film. If you'd like to become a sponsor here on the Mighty Rewind Podcast, make sure you reach out at the Mighty Rewind Podcast at gmail.com.